What's up, everyone? It's this guy back with another reaction. This time we are taking a look at JD Vance's speech at CPAC 2025. So we'll see what he has to say.
I mean, you've been like on a whirlwind here.
Yeah.
Are you a little jet lagged or no?
Yes, I am a little jet lagged. So we did a
He's got to be
trip where
exhausted.
we went to
They've
France,
sent him everywhere.
and then to Germany, and then we went to San Diego for a family wedding, and then back in DC, and we did all that in like 7 days. So a little jet lagged.
That's a lot of traveling.
Well,
I'm in a good place right now, Mercedes. I got some sleep last night.
Okay, good. Then we're ready. We're ready. But it's a real special day today. You know what today is, guys? It's February 20th. That means our first 30 days, the happy one-month anniversary
Let's go.
of the Trump
30 days, baby.
administration. I mean, how exciting is that?
Get a lot done.
It's very exciting. It's hard to believe we've only been in office for a month, because I think we've done more in a month than Biden did in about 4 years.
Yeah.
And thank God for that. But you know, the president keeps us on a pretty breakneck pace. He always asks,
Keep it
what have we
moving.
done today? What are we going to do tomorrow? What are we going to do next week? Because I think he realizes this is a special moment in time. And by the way, thank you. Thanks to all of you for making it possible for us to do all the great work we've been doing in the administration. I know we wouldn't have been here without you. But I think the president is acutely aware that the American people gave us a window to save the country, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And thank God for that, because it's been a hell of a lot of fun
couple
the past
years.
month.
Okay, so
Before the
I
midterms.
don't even think we can keep track of all the things you all are doing.
Do
In fact, I don't
major
even
change
think the press
in the
can
world.
keep track
On
of
the
all
US.
they're doing. I mean, they talk
It's gonna
about the
affect the
shock and
world,
awe
too.
strategy. Seriously. So when you're looking at this list after list after list, what stands out to you?
Well, speaking of the press, I do think that we've had maybe more executive orders than CNN has viewers each night. So hello to our friends at
CNN blown out.
I actually think that their plan was
That's
they were going to go
brutal.
all in on anti-Trump
Yeah.
and hope that he could save CNN in the same way that he did, frankly, in 2017, because nobody really watched the
He
network
might just save
until-
CNN.
until he became president in 2017.
Get enough hate watchers.
But that's maybe the one thing I think the president has been unable to do, unable to save CNN's ratings over the last few months.
It's a shame.
But
CNN
look,
should have died.
I think that what the president has tried to do is recognize that we have a historical mandate on a few issues. We have to secure the southern border, and thanks to his actions, border crossings are down well over 90%.
Needed
and
to
we're
pour
just
more,
getting
though.
started.
Gotta get those numbers
He
up.
recognizes that we have to really unlock the engine of American growth. We've got to get back to having a growing economy that creates good jobs and high wages for the American people. And a lot of that goes back
Unleash
to
the American economy.
drill, baby, drill. We've
Lower
done
taxes.
more on energy under
Drill.
President Trump's leadership.
We definitely need to
than
drill.
I think any administration in history, and that's not an exaggeration. And of course, we're going to do more. And then I think the third thing that he's tried to do, of course, with the help of Elon and all the great folks at Doge, is ask, what are we doing with all of the American taxpayers' money?
We're
And
wasting
why
it.
are we wasting so much of it on garbage that the American people either aren't aware that we're spending it on or don't want to be spending it on in the
USAID.
first place?
Such a
Like, for
boondoggle.
example, the stuff that we've figured out, Mercedes, is unbelievable. Why are we spending money
Pentagon,
on progressive modern art
entitlements,
projects centered around toilets
all of it.
in Afghanistan? That's actually something that your tax dollars were funding until
Toilets
very
in
recently.
Afghanistan.
And I think all of us are sitting around and asking, what the hell have we been doing with the American people's money for the
There are
last 4
veterans on
years?
the street
Let's
that
turn
don't
off
have
the
access to a
spigot and
toilet.
spend the American people's tax money on the American people's priority, and that's, of course, been a big focus of the administration, too.
And we're funding toilets in Afghanistan.
Let's dig deeper into the immigration issue.
Sure.
We've seen, and you've met many of the victims, people who have family members who have died,
Yes.
have been tragically murdered. Those angel families.
This is why people with hearing loss are switching to this genius affordable device. The hairs inside your inner ear are not
In the hands of these criminal illegal aliens.
Sure.
What's your message to these families? What is your message to these horrific drug cartels and human traffickers who have preyed on the most vulnerable in the world?
What are the chances
well, our
are
message to the drug traffickers
think they're actually
is,
watching
get
this?
the hell out of our country. Your free ride is over because President Trump is back in the Oval Office. That is
highly doubt they're watching a
You're
CPAC
not
speech.
welcome. You were
but-
never welcome, according to the American people. But unfortunately, you had President Joe Biden, who allowed you to
You never
run
know.
free over the United States of America. And Donald Trump has said, you're terrorist organizations. We're going to go after you. We're going to wage war on you. And certainly, we want you out of the United States of America.
Get 'em
And that's
out.
an important message, of course. But our message, and you know this, Mercedes, our message to the families is President Trump cares about you. He thinks that it's disgraceful what your own
Phone's
government
ringing.
let happen to your children, to your grandchildren, and it's got to stop. And of course, we mourn with people, we pray for people, but we're also asking, as their government, why did this happen to your child in the first place? And the answer is that under Joe Biden, your government didn't do its job. Under Donald Trump, it is. Thank God for that.
On the economy, and I'm getting this question all the time, you know, it's
Whole
a
ton of
question
people here.
affordability,
We
right?
need to
There's
get 'em
a lot
out.
of stress on our families, something that I think Joe
Illegals.
Biden could not manage in terms of really helping lower that cost of living and making things just simply more affordable.
Sure.
We talked about energy independence being a critical component of this, of ensuring that we unleash this economic prosperity. What more needs to be done?
Yeah, so one of the first interviews I did, it was, I think, 6 or 7 days after the inauguration, and somebody asked me, well, it's been 6 days. What have you guys done to fix the inflation crisis created by Joe Biden? I'm like, well, first of all, it's been 6 days. We've done a lot in 6 days, but it's going to take some time to fix what Joe Biden broke over 4 years. And
The president
we
was
know
signing
it is
executive
easy,
orders
unfortunately,
during the
to burn
inauguration.
the house down. It takes a little bit of time to build it back up.
He
And here's
signed
what
some
we
at
have to do.
a rally
Because look,
in
the
DC.
fundamental goal of our immigration policy, of our border
Crazy.
policy,
Then he
of
signed more
those
later in the
saving
day.
taxpayer money, the fundamental goal is we want your children and grandchildren to be able to raise a family in security and comfort in the country that we all love. That is the whole goal of President Trump's agenda. Like safety and prosperity, right? It's pretty common sense stuff. And we know that to do that, we have to, first of all, unleash American energy. Now, why is that so important? Because look, if, you know, we all know grocery prices got too high under Joe Biden's leadership. Well, one of the main drivers of groceries is energy. Because if the farmers are paying more for energy, then we're all paying more for what the farmers grow.
prices
and if
are
the truck
nuts.
drivers who are delivering the groceries
A lot of things
are
are
paying
really
more
expensive.
for fuel, then we're all paying more for what
I
the
think
truck
eggs have to
drivers
do
are
with all
delivering
the
to
chickens they
grocery
killed, though.
store. If we unleash American energy, that will do
Bird flu
more
scare.
than anything to drive down the cost for the American people. The second thing, Mercedes, is we have got to stop spending the American people's money on garbage. Every dollar that we take in and spend, you have to pay for, either through taxes or through inflation. And if we spend the American people's money more wisely, if we stop taxing and spending the American people to death, that's also going to bring relief to all of the pricing pressures that are out there. We're going to make it affordable to
I'm
live in
telling
this
you,
country again.
they could get
That's
rid
our
of the,
mandate, that's our goal. And you're right, there's a lot
income
more
tax.
that we can do, but I think we've got a pretty
You
good
go off
start
a
after
tariff
30
system
days.
We've got a pretty good start.
and fund the government that
But
way.
we've got this big, beautiful one-bill budget reconciliation
yeah.
scenario. How is that working? What are the dynamics that are happening right now in Congress, and what the administration is doing to ensure that a lot of what the president is wanting to do in terms of really pushing forward with economic prosperity and his tax relief initiatives gets done in these bills?
Sure. Yeah, it's really important. So the Senate obviously has its own approach, and the president has been very clear that his preference is to put everything in one bill.
Right.
And part of that is just simple legislative strategy. I think the president has learned a lot
Congress
about how DC
might
works. And I actually talked to the president about
slow
this
things
yesterday,
down.
and he said to me,
Slow
look,
down
it's
progress.
very rare that you can get two reconciliation
They could
bills
they could
done
screw it up.
in one Congress, which is why he thinks we've got to do a lot with that one big, beautiful bill, that first reconciliation package that we're going to get through the House and the Senate. It's going well. It's early, right? This stuff takes time to put together. I think, you know, if you had a record pace reconciliation bill, we would get this thing done in May or in June. I think we're on track to do that. But we've got to do some basic things, Mercedes. One, like I said, we've got to continue to unleash American energy. That's part of the reconciliation bill. We've got to make sure that other countries stop taking advantage of us. That's a big part of President Trump's tariff policy, is we got to stop being taken advantage of.
Tariffs are a good start.
Of course, we want to make the President Trump tax
Bringing
cuts
the money
permanent
in right
and
away.
extend them into the future. We want no taxes on tips. We got to do some of the things we talked about during the campaign. That's
Restaurant
got to be part
workers
of it. And then
love that.
finally, and this is really important, everything the president has done on the border, we have got to empower him to do it, not just for a month, but for the next 4 years. And we've got to hire.
Yeah, all the border
patrollers.
policies.
We got to give Tom Homan and Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem the
Need a
resources
lot of
they
people.
need to secure the border.
Need a lot more people.
And
More money needs to be spent
just
there.
not to return to the border, but I think so many of our issues come back to the border, because if you take 30, 40 million illegal aliens, you take Medicare fraud, Social Security fraud. Why are we taking the people's Social
just
Security
cleaning up the trash
and
is
giving it
the
to
big
illegal
thing.
aliens? We know that's happening in the United States of America today. We've got to stop it. If you get control of the border, Mercedes, you do more to control the fiscal problem, the financial problems that we have in this country than almost anything. Get illegal aliens out of our country, make sure American tax dollars go to American people. That is how you solve
Be
the
huge.
fiscal crisis in the United
It's
States.
a great start
of
anyway.
America.
It's a great start.
Shifting to your incredible speech at the Munich conference. Did you all watch that?
It was a good speech.
I don't know.
I would have posted a video reacting to it, but I already watched it, and I want to be
think they
authentic.
really
Why do you guys liked it? Not everybody liked
Okay.
it. You guys liked it.
Okay.
Not everybody
Well,
liked
a lot of the foreign leaders didn't like it. I mean, why would they like it? They like, you know, putting in policies that hurt their people, reduce free speech,
it. Thank you.
free expression, liberty. So they want to
Okay.
bring in a lot of
Okay.
I'll take a standing
more
ovation
immigrants
for a speech
and-
I already gave.
Yeah, it's
like
awesome.
two for the price of one.
Yeah, I was going to say, here's your speech to say it again. All right. But it was fascinating.
that guy
because
yell?
There was obviously some of these.
This is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA.
90% is
European leaders that, they were a little uptight about it. It stressed them out just a little bit.
A little bit.
But
A
you
little bit.
talked about the greatest threats in Europe.
Yeah. So, look, the greatest threat in Europe, and I'd say it was the greatest threat in the United States until about 30 days ago, is that you've had the leaders of the West decide that they should send millions and millions of unvetted foreign migrants into their countries.
Yeah, that's
That is the biggest threat to Europe.
that's
and
a
frankly, it remains,
stupid thing to
by
do.
the way, the biggest threat to the United States, because yes, we've got 4 years of
You're
President
changing the
Trump's
entire
leadership,
demographics
but
of
I
Europe.
guarantee you, if the Democrats ever get power again, they're going to try to do it again. We cannot rebuild Western civilization. We cannot rebuild the United States of America or Europe by letting millions and millions of unvetted illegal
people.
migrants
Yeah.
come into our country. It has to stop. Thank God it stopped here, but it's got to stop there. And a related issue, Mercedes, is you can't just stop it. You
When you're
have
fixing
to
some
allow
plumbing, you gotta-
European peoples,
gotta
and of
stop
course
the leaks
American
first.
people too, to raise issues about it.
Right.
You have to allow free speech to debate this stuff. You have to stop doing things to the populations of the world. You've got to give the populations of the world the opportunity to speak up and say, no more of this BS. We want borders. We want sovereignty. We want to be able to speak our own mind in our own
big.
country. And I
very
guarantee
true.
you, if we don't allow free speech, and of course, the Biden administration, I made this point, Mercedes, the Biden administration did more to destroy free speech, not just in the United
People need to
States,
be
but also
allowed
in
to
Europe,
share their
than any
opinions.
administration in American history. I'm not even blaming the Europeans. I'm actually saying you follow the lead of Joe Biden into censorship and mass migration. Follow the lead of Donald J. Trump, and that's free speech, borders, and sovereignty. That is the future for our shared civilization.
And I will tell you something that is
Yeah, free
really
speech is the
truly
bedrock of America.
remarkable that's happening
And
at CPAC. is, and
It's
we
only
had
way
our
to
second
save the
CPAC
West.
International Summit.
Elon buying
yesterday,
X is
many
huge.
Of these European
It's a good start.
conservative European leaders.
But there
with
are
us
some things I'm seeing
today
on X
we
where people
stand
are
in
getting
solidarity because
you know,
they have an
their blue checks
opportunity
taken
to
away, and
basically make
I think
Europe
some of
great
that's getting
again,
rectified,
make Asia
but
great again, make Latin America
you can't
great
trust any of
again.
these platforms,
and so
unfortunately.
in essence, I think your message was very well received by many of those conservative leaders across the globe. But what does this mean with the U.S. now that, you know, in giving that speech? What does this mean with the U.S.'s relationship with Europe?
Well, look, obviously, we're going to continue to have important alliances with Europe, but I really do think the strength of those alliances is going
Europe
to
is
depend
lost.
on whether
I mean,
we take our society.
they need to fix their house.
Think about this: Germany's
they need to stay out of the way
defense is subsidized by the American
to the things we're
taxpayer.
doing.
There are thousands upon thousands of American troops in Germany today. Do you think that the American taxpayer is going to stand for that if you get thrown in jail in Germany for posting a mean tweet?
No, or a meme.
Right? So the point
Yeah, they're
that
throwing
I'm trying to
people in
make to
jail
our
for
European
posting
friends,
memes.
and I think that there are friends. I believe
crazy.
that. I know President Trump does, is that friendship is based on shared
I mean, there's a lot of great
values.
people in Europe,
You
but
do not have shared
their
values
leaders are
if you're jailing
lost.
people for saying we should close down.
The leaders
our
are
border.
not good.
You don't have shared values if you cancel elections because you don't like the result, and that happened in Romania. You do not have shared
that whole
values
thing is a
if you're
boondoggle.
so afraid of your
Romanian
own
stuff.
people that you silence them and shut them up. So let's have shared values. Let's defend democracy. Let's have free expression, not just in the United States, but all over the Western world. That is the path to strong alliances in Europe.
It's a good start anyway.
We had Ambassador Rick Riddell with us yesterday. He'll be on the CPAC stage during these conferences. He has like 3 jobs, or 4 or 5.
Yes, he
but
does.
let me ask you this: where are we on basically the status of the Russia-Ukraine moving forward in terms of these negotiations in bringing peace to this endless war?
We are
It's
Zelensky
early, and I think
screwing things up.
President Trump, what makes him such an effective negotiator, I've seen this in private, is that he doesn't take anything off the table. When he walks into negotiation, he says everything is on the table. And of course, that makes the heads explode in the American media because they say, why are you talking to Russia? Well, how are you going to end the war?
You have to make conversations
Talking to Russia, you've got to talk to
make things
everybody
happen.
involved in the fighting if you actually want to bring the conflict to a close.
You want to make a
and
deal.
I know the president does. But I'll tell you the goals that animate President Trump's policy. It's really simple. He wants the killing to stop. He wants to bring lasting peace to Europe. He doesn't just want to stop it now and have the war restart a month from now. He wants to bring lasting peace to Europe because the president believes this, and he's absolutely right. Peace is in the interest of Russia. It's in the interest of Ukraine. It's in the interest of Europe. But most importantly, peace is in the interest of the American people, and he's going to fight for it for the remainder of his administration.
Especially since we're
Wherever
funding
war breaks
Ukraine.
out, he's going to be the president.
And a lot of that
of
money
peace.
disappeared.
Now, he, of course, is a very good negotiator, a very good
should,
businessman. He
should see
recognizes
where all that went.
that a lot of these issues are tough. It's going to take a smart statesman to figure this stuff out, but we've got that in the White House, and I really believe that we're on the cusp of peace in Europe for the first time in 3 years because we have
would be big.
leadership from the Oval Office, and we haven't had it in 4
war
years
needs
in
end.
this country.
Matt and I mentioned this right when we started the conference. We're honored by the presence of 2 hostages that were freed.
Watch what castor oil does to your liver.
Even though it sounds like one of those
Little YouTube ads.
old-timey kind of remedies, castor oil.
After the Hamas atrocity, the tragedy that we've seen happen, and we have several of the family members as well who
God bless
still they're where their loved ones are still being detained.
It's crazy that we
by Hamas.
that Trump got hostages back. And it makes me think, like, what
is
was
your
Biden
message
doing this whole time?
to
Why
these
didn't you just
hostage
let
families?
these Americans?
These survivors.
Our message is that President Trump loves you. He hasn't forgotten
Just
your loved ones, and he's going to fight every single day to bring them home.
be there.
That is exactly what he's been doing, and that's what he'll keep on doing.
It's a shame.
I was actually talking with one of my best friends about this a couple of days ago.
Can I be your
Please.
best friend too?
Yes.
Okay. I think we all want to be your best friend, right?
No, like, what is this
But
chick
I
talking
was
about?
talking with him, and he was asking me. He was
Can I
like,
be your
well,
best
I
friend?"
don't understand. Why was Biden unable
He's
to
married.
do this? And then, like, the minute that Donald Trump won, we started to make progress in bringing the hostages home. And I said, man, it's just a question of leadership. You actually need a president who is willing to pick up the phone and say, you got to bring these people home. No. We're not focused on that crap right now. We're focused on bringing hostages home. And then when the negotiations hit a wall, because they always do, you need a president who picks up the phone and says, cut this crap out. We've got to make progress, and you've got to keep that pace going. It's leadership. It really
They
is.
make
And I
things
saw
happen.
it behind the scenes. And what the president did is he empowered, in particular, because remember, this was before
Right.
we were inaugurated. This is before we had our great Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, or any of the great people around us. The president sent his dear friend, and he's become my dear friend, Steve Witkoff, as an emissary of the President of the United States. And he said, Steve, you speak for me, get it done, and if there are problems, pick up the phone and call me. Steve Witkoff, with the president's leadership, got it done, and it's amazing.
The jury's out on
And
that
of course,
guy. I
we've
don't
still
know.
got work
He
to
could
do.
be good.
We've got to finish the process. But
Yeah,
I
don't
really
know.
believe the president is as committed to this as
He's
any
gotta prove
American leader
himself.
in my lifetime. We're going to keep on fighting for it.
One of the issues that's central to the CPAC community is the issue of pro-life.
Of course.
And what is the administration going to do to defend the unborn, to provide support for those mothers, those fathers that choose life?
Sure. Well, one of the things, of course, the president got done during the first term, and I think that it's why he is accurately called the most pro-life president in American history, is he finally made it possible for the will of the people to speak on the life issue. And that was the Dobbs decision. What that did is it gave the abortion question back to the
stuff
people. It took it
is
out of the hands of unelected
trap
bureaucrats and
for
unelected
any
judges
conservatives,
and gave it back to the people. And I think the most important thing that we can do, and as you know,
Republican.
Mercedes, I'm very pro-life, I'm a devout Christian, is that we have got to
There's
persuade
certain people that will
our
literally
fellow
vote
Americans
because of that
now
one issue.
We've got the power. We've got the power of persuasion. We've got to persuade our fellow citizens that unborn life is worthy of protecting.
We do need more
It
babies,
is
though.
sacred in the
People
eyes
need to
of
be out here
God,
making
and
babies.
It should be sacred in the eyes of man too. And we have to pick up the
Maybe
torch
that
and fight for
could
that
lead
every single
to
day.
government policy.
And I know you guys are
where
up for the
we
task.
simulate
I am
families
too.
to have more than a
And
couple
I
kids.
think on the administration side, what the
Tax
president
breaks.
has said, and it's been consistent, it's going to be consistent in the
Could be
rhetoric
huge.
and in the policy, is we believe in the Trump administration that babies are good, that families are good, and we want to make it easier for young moms and young dads to choose life, to start families, and to bring new life into the world. That's the whole point of our policy. Now, some of that, of course, is supporting our great crisis pregnancy centers at the moment of these important healthcare decisions, encouraging young women to choose life at that important moment of choice. Some of that is bringing
all we can really
costs
do,
down so that
be
young
honest.
moms and dads don't look to the future and a new baby
Ugly
and
truth
say,
is
how can I afford this?
some
And if they're
women
able to actually afford to raise a family,
really
maybe they'll start thinking of babies as the
want the
blessings
ability
that we all
to
know that they are.
Yeah.
And
kill their
I think
unborn child.
But I think
And,
fundamentally,
it's
this
tough.
is going to take a lot of leadership from the president on down, but from every single
All we can
person
really
in
do
this
is
room. We've got to
espouse
persuade our
pro-life
fellow citizens to stop thinking
viewpoints and pray
about
for 'em.
babies as inconveniences to be discarded. We've got to start thinking of them as blessings to cherish, and that's exactly what I promise to do.
So
Need more of them too. People need to be making babies. Let's go.
now we're going to get personal. This is going to
Okay,
be so
all right.
fun.
Oh, jeez.
Your faith.
Yep.
Why is it so important to you? What does it mean to you? Tell us why, when you go every single day
think
to work,
he's
how
Catholic.
faith is a part of who you are.
Well, I mean, first is I believe like the fundamental tenet of the Christian faith. It's not just a set of good moral principles, though it is that. I think the fundamental tenet of our faith is that the Son of God became man, he died, and then he raised himself from the dead. That is the fundamental tenet of the Christian faith, and I think so much flows from that. And I think one lesson that flows from
Believes
that
in the Trinity.
is that we shouldn't fear death. Of course, death is a very bad thing.
It's part
but
of
there
life.
are much more terrible things than just losing one's life, and importantly, you could lose one's soul. And I think whether
you
it's
could really
fighting
lose
for
yourself.
the unborn or fighting for peace and security for our citizens, I want us to be the kind of society where my kids can grow up to be virtuous young people, can be
A lot of
good
people that are alive
young
that aren't
Christians,
living.
of course, because that's what I'm trying to raise them to be. And that's what our public policy is trying to do. Creating the space where moms and dads can raise their children in their faith to become good young people who believe the things that I do. That is what I'm trying to create, is the space for you, of course, to raise your children as you see fit, but the space for me to raise my kids to be the kind of young people that I think they ought to be. And the other thing that I take from it, Mercedes, is if you look at the long history of the Christian faith, we've been around for about 2,000 years now, give or take a few years, and there have been really dark times in the history of the Christian faith. There have been really good times in the history of the Christian faith. And I just try to remind myself that we put our faith in God above, we put our faith in the grace of God, and we try the best to do His will, and we don't worry so much about whether we're going to have earthly rewards. We worry about whether we're doing right by God Almighty above. That's what I try to do, and that's how I try
think
to run my
things
life.
are swinging back around. I think people are speaking truth,
You
and they're
mentioned
looking for God.
raising these children into good people and also into
Again.
good citizens that
Yes.
can contribute to society and to the world. We had so many young people come out and support Donald Trump
Yes, we did.
and J.D. Vance
And thank you.
this past election. So what is your message? And what is your message to the young men?
In a bossa nova groove, the little samba sets the...
You know, I guess my message to young people generally is we're trying to make your life better. And that is the simple thrust of President Trump's policy is we want you to be able to buy a home. We want you to be able to work a good job. We want you to be able to raise your
Opportunity is
kids,
the
like
main
I
thing.
said, according to the values that you believe
We just want to
in.
give our
And we want you to
our
be able
young
to build a
citizens
nice
the
life
opportunity.
in this country.
Maybe
that
the
all of
opportunities
us
that we
love.
didn't even have
That is what we're
growing
trying
up.
to do. And you know, you guys more than anybody, more
Leave
than me.
the country
I'm talking
in a
about
better
people
place
under
than
the age of 30 in
in
particular. You guys are going to
back
have
then.
to deal with the consequences of good policy or of bad policy for much longer than the rest of us. And I
Social
want you
Security is
guys
gonna
to
become
think
insolvent.
about the future
I
and ask
don't know how
yourself, do
they're
you
gonna
want safe communities? Do you want a prosperous
that,
life? Do you
to
want to
be
be able
honest.
to work a good job? Or do you want that job shipped off to China or somewhere else? We're fighting for you every single day. We want you to help fight for us because we've got to win. Not just the
gotta win,
policy
baby.
battles of the next couple of months. We've got to win the midterm elections in a couple of years. We need
true.
you. We
gotta
recognize
fight.
that we need you, and we're fighting for you every single day.
People need
And
to
I-
care.
And I think, you know,
This is your life.
You asked me, you know, my message to young men is I think that our culture sends a message to young men that you should suppress every masculine urge. You should try to cast aside your family. You should try to suppress what makes you a young man in the first place. And I think that my message to young men is don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because
Real
you
men are
like to
gonna
have a
save this
beer with your
country.
friends, or because you're competitive. It's our message, the cultural message, and I think the president's and mine is the exact opposite, but our cultural message is, I think that it wants to turn everybody, whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same.
we're not drones.
We actually think God made male and female for a purpose, and we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that.
Can agree with that.
And by the way, that I actually think, Mercedes, this is the thing that President Trump, this is why the media went after him so hard, is because, you know, when I think about, like, what is the essence of masculinity, you could answer this in so many different ways, but when I think about me and my guy friends, we really like to tell jokes to one another. Like, we like to laugh. If you think of all the movies that were
you got to make fun of your friends. Like,
funny?
that's where it starts. You
President
make fun of your
Trump. Who's
friends.
funnier?
That's how you.
President Trump.
All right, there you go.
Let's go.
There you go.
He's got the best,
He's
he's
right.
got the best sense of humor of any American political figure. But I think this is why young men in particular are so, you know, they're so inspired by President Trump, is because he doesn't allow the media to tell him he can't make
runs
a joke
over the media.
or he can't have an original thought. President Trump just says what's on his mind. That's a damn good thing, and it's a good example to set for young
Gotta
men
live
in American
unfiltered.
culture.
You know, I always tell my 5 daughters, so I don't have any sons, but Matt and I, we have 5 beautiful daughters, and I always say, you know, the most important decision you'll ever make is who you marry.
That's right.
Always who you marry.
It's a
And you
lot of
made a very
daughters.
important decision in marrying Usha.
I did. I
And
married
so-
up. I married up.
She is a beautiful second lady, and I want to know, what is the best advice Usha has given you?
Well, one
What's he gonna say here?
Fun, okay.
What? This is going to be very personal. One piece of advice she gave me like a week ago was, you should be nicer on social media. I don't know that I'll take that advice.
It's terrible
Some
advice.
advice is good. Some advice is, you know, can be good, but you don't
Be
have to
nicer
always
on
take
social
it.
media. Yeah, right.
You sound like my husband.
The best advice Usha ever gave me, when it comes, I mean, she gave me so many good life advices or pieces of advice, but the best advice she gave me when it came to politics is, don't let them filter you. And in
Very true.
politics, you know, you've got consultants, and you've got media professionals, you've got pollsters, you've got a lot of people who try to tell you what to say or how to behave or, you know, what to do. And Usha just said, just be yourself, be authentic, go out there and say what's actually on your mind, maybe a little nicer from time to time. But I think that's the best advice that she gave me, and that's why
Good
we
advice.
take our kids everywhere, and that's why I'm not afraid to make a joke on social media, even if it's sometimes a dad joke. I forgive.
I've seen
forgive me,
him
all of you
ratio
who don't
some
like,
people
don't
on
like
X.
dad jokes, but you just got to be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's President Trump's superpower in American politics, and that's probably the best advice Usha ever gave me, at least on politics.
Okay, last question. What inspires you every day?
Well, I mean, one is my family, right? I mean, I'm blessed to have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and I can't help but see the country through their eyes. And when we were on the campaign in particular,
Can relate
and we
to
would
that.
take our kids with us, all of my kids, when we were about to land in some new place, you know, they'd all rush to the window of the plane and they'd look out and they'd say, "Oh, Dad, this looks so cool." Like, you know, the beauty of the Arizona cactuses and Arizona deserts. Or, you know, we'd be in Texas for a fundraiser and they'd be like, "Oh my God, like, look at just all of that open space," right? Or we'd be in North Carolina and say, "Oh, look how beautiful the Green Mountains," right? This idea of these beautiful green mountains of Appalachia, North Carolina. We love North Carolina. And
It's a nice state.
I guess what inspires me is you can't help but be hopeful and energetic and optimistic about this country when you see it through the eyes of a child. So I hope I never lose that perspective because it does inspire me every day.
Good answer.
Well, Mr. Vice President, you inspire us every day. We are praying for you. We are praying for your family. We are praying for this incredible administration, for, of course, President Donald Trump. And we are honored that you are here with our CPAC family.
And I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
I have
Well, that was JD Vance at CPAC 2025. Appreciate you watching. Drop a like, subscribe, and I will be back covering the next thing. This guy out.